Hi everyone, happy Monday evening. I'm coming to you live at the end of the day. It was such a huge day today in a number of reasons, so I wasn't able to get a video this morning, so I'm coming to you after I've had some dinner and I'm about to end my evening. So I wanted to make sure that I stuck to my word and promised to deliver the next letter in the March Lunchbox, and that is C. This morning in my meditation, my guides were showing me the letter C, but then they also showed me a circle. So that's where I'd like to begin. C this evening is all about Crohn's disease. Now, without getting too medical and without going into it too deeply, because there is a lot about this that I want to talk about, because I am a sufferer of Crohn's disease, and there is a huge story behind this diagnosis which occurred in 2003 for me. So I've had it a very, very long time, and I want to talk more about it, but now's not the time. But I do want to touch on why C is important for me tonight, and Crohn's disease. So basically, Crohn's disease in a nutshell, in a very brief nutshell, is a inflammatory autoimmune bowel disease, and it is a disease. It's a condition that stays in the body for quite some time. It's a disease that is very much like a smoldering fire, is how I'd like to describe it. While you can be feeling on top of the world and in control of this condition, at the same time, the symptoms are very subtle and they come on very, very quickly, and they can make you incredibly unwell and in such pain like that. I've been hospitalized within moments of a flare-up, and for any of you out there watching who might have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When a flare-up is occurring in you, the pain is very much like contractions. You literally cannot move, you're bent over, and majority of the time you are hospitalized because the pain is so horrendous, and Panadol and painkillers at home aren't going to cut it. And the only thing for me that has helped my flare-ups when it's been so severe has definitely been morphine and hospitalization for a couple of days, and the entire life force in my body is completely sucked out of me. So it's a really serious condition, and a condition that I've had since 2003 when I was diagnosed. And it's a condition that I only started to realize just how life-threatening it was about 9 years ago. So it's been a journey, and I will save it for a later time to get more involved in talking about it, because it's something that I feel very passionately about, and I'm a huge advocate for getting out the message on Crohn's disease. So basically, C, Crohn's disease. For me, Crohn's disease, the diagnosis, was absolutely life-changing. It was absolutely the catalyst that completely woke me up in terms of looking after myself. It was the awakening of all my spiritual gifts. I really don't like the word spiritual, but at the moment there's not another word that I can really explain it. I just became incredibly attuned, awake. All the gifts that I'd felt in my early childhood about seeing spirit, hearing spirit, feeling energy, it all just came right up to the surface around the same time that I was diagnosed with the condition. Which is pretty interesting, because when we're at our most vulnerable, especially when there's disease or a diagnosis, we're so vulnerable, and usually that's the time when these awakenings do occur, because we're completely vulnerable, which allows our true gifts to birth. So basically, when I was diagnosed, it was delivered in such a horrendous way in terms of the way it was approached to me. I remember being in this clinic room, and I had this doctor basically give me a piece of paper, circled around the abdominal area where this Crohn's was, told me that I had Crohn's disease, gave me 6 packets of medication and sent me on my merry way. It really was a life-changing next few years, because the way that it was told to me and the way that I was diagnosed was in such a cold, clinical manner. It was that day that I remember saying to myself, if I ever am in medicine, or if I am ever giving someone a diagnosis of some kind, that I remain kind, that I remain warm, and that I remain gentle. Because for me, getting that diagnosis was absolutely the most scariest thing I have. It was horrendous. Back then in 2003, there wasn't a lot of information. There still really isn't a lot of information about Crohn's disease. It's one of those diseases that really needs a lot of research and funding into the understanding of it. It's a little bit complex, and it doesn't actually really make a lot of medical sense out there in the medical world. So Crohn's disease is definitely something to keep an eye out for, because basically it's inflammation of the large, small intestines, and you get that developing in your system through flight or fight responses, extreme stress, poor nutrition. There's a lot of factors, but we need a lot more research going into understanding Crohn's condition. So basically, it really was the catalyst that threw me into seeing all aspects of the traditional medical side of things. I have had every single test thrown at me. I have had stool samples, MRIs, colonoscopies. I've had cameras down my throat. I have had cameras in the gut. I have had every single blood test you can think of. When I was really, really unwell with my Crohn's disease, I was told things like I wouldn't be able to carry my own children. I probably would have trouble falling pregnant. By the time that I was 30, I would have a colostomy bag. Probably not my large intestine, and that general area would probably be completely shit itself. Getting told all these words in my early 20s, and all of these horrific what ifs or things like that, absolutely petrified me, absolutely scared the fuck out of me. And it was a huge light bulb moment, because it allowed me to explore natural therapies. Don't get me wrong, natural therapies is complementary to any medication that you use by the hospitals and the doctors. I'm not saying don't ever use traditional medicine. It has its place, and they're doing amazing things. But for me, it was very much trial and error. I had so many drugs getting pumped into my system. I was on so many different medications for this Crohn's disease, and I just wasn't feeling better. I wasn't getting anywhere. If anything, I was getting worse. So it's when I started to get so incredibly unwell that I started to look into natural therapies. And it was because of that curiosity and that I've got nothing to lose, because I already feel like I'm dying. I felt that unwell, that why not give Reiki a shot? Why not go and, meet a naturopath? So as soon as I started to put the pieces together about what natural therapies and natural medicine was, I couldn't get enough of it. And there was just this intrinsic calling in me, if you like, that completely propelled me into discovering all sides of natural therapies.